And this is our game Homeward.
A boy's path from home becomes a struggle to survive a design world.
And I hope you guys don't mind if we take a brisk page. So we wanted to talk about our thesis for this game. And first and foremost, this game is about dualities. We're using motion and analog control. Narratively, we're having nature and machine being two prominent themes, as well as humanity environment, and using 2D and 3D gameplay.
Yeah, and also otherwise trying to incorporate too.
So Homeward is also about feeling lost, and we wanted to make it important that we had an emotion or an experience that was consistent throughout the entire game that we really designed for. And two ways that we're doing this, that we'll touch on later, is through nonlinear exploration and letting the player get lost for themselves, as well as implicit narrative, which we'll explain more.
And Homeward is a different experience for everyone, which means we have multiple endings, and different players will touch on different endings based on their subconscious narrative choice, which means the computer chooses for you based on how you progress in the game. And by that, we mean we have hidden content in the games, which you would trigger with different incidents, or you have to really look into it or to discover it.
Don't worry, we'll go over all that stuff a little bit more in narrative. So I'd like to introduce our two main characters, Milo and Daisy. They live in this world which is a series of mysterious asteroids that are populated by humans and animals, and they're all built around these ancient machines that were once used to collect energy.
And yeah, so they used to collect energy, they're built around the sun to collect energy for the earth. And then people moved down onto the asteroid belt because, of course, humans just polluted the earth too much. And there's a center machine which is called the sun later, who is managing all the machines and getting the energy from the sun directly.
So here's some early concept of Milo and Daisy. Daisy is the AI of the ship, and she can shapeshift, and so we've chosen this awesome star dog form for her while she's accompanying you while you're platforming.
Okay, so the sequence or the background story of the game is the sun is actually going wrong, and it's dragging everything into him. So it's destroying the whole system, and humans have to flee away from their home. Or they don't have to, but they just choose to flee away instead of solving the problem. And of course, animals are forced out of their habitat and consumed.
So here's a bit of what's happening in our concept art, and we're also going to use that in final art. The humans basically dropping everything and going.
And relationship is an important thing in the game, which is like the humans and animals and the AIs are three important creatures or intelligence in this world. And the humans, of course, create this chaos by creating all the machines and abandoning them, apparently. And the machines are actually very responsible for the calamity, but they were unwilling doing so because they can't fix their own problems. And animals, who are supposed to be pure victim of this mass, became just intrinsically became aggressive to survive and became the main obstacles and enemies to our main character.
So the multiple end states, which we talked about earlier, essentially the way you're going to reach them is you'll be exploring the map non-linearly after the first level. You basically get to choose where you go, and based on what you find, the player will sort of pick what's most important to them and what they think saving the world means. So three of our endings that we really want to make in there are the default ending, which is if you explore everything, you find this machine that's causing all the problems and you fix it. But if you choose to save the humans, you leave the system with them, and also if you choose to save the animals who are endangered, you can create an ecosystem where they can survive.
And there's a hidden home, finding your real home, the Earth. You get to explore it and see how humans just destroyed it, and that's where you should be.
So how we tell the story is an interesting thing with Homeward, is we don't want to do any explicit narrative. No text, no dialogue, and make a game that's understandable in any language and to any age group. And this, we hope, will really encourage exploration and thinking about the game.
And you're reaching this end stage naturally, but based on your inclination, like which side you pick to believe in. Because they all have their own narrative behind them. They don't have their own problems. And we also have memorable, unique, character-driven moments where it just put you emotionally into this game to feel really for the side you stand on. And this one clip of it.
So this is Milo walking through the world, and this is from our prototype, and he finds this broken tram that flies off the hinges. And like, hopefully create something that players really remember about the game, you know, rather than just another platforming experience. And we hope to have many more of those fully animated. So moving from narrative, we have mechanics here. The gameplay is split to two main sections of mechanics that we hope to join. One of them is the 2D platforming, which is mostly controlled by analog with motion input, and we have the 3D physics-based puzzle solving, which is Kinect-based rotation that is also using analog input to help with the Kinect's precision. Sorry about that. Gameplay mechanics. For the 2D platforming, essentially we've attracted Milo to all these little planets in the same forces that are used in real astronomical bodies. And this may sound boring, but you get to actually do some really awesome tricks with it that usually only spaceships can do, like the gravity slingshot. So this will show you a little bit about how we're managing physics and like how he's being attracted to different poles. And then right here, when he jumps off of the man cannon, he'll gravity slingshot off of this moon, which is when you use the gravitational pull of a planet to propel you. And we think that the level design implications of this are totally rad. So switching dynamically between the gravity sources is something that hasn't been done. There's been a couple games, obviously Mario Galaxy, some new ones called Inkabodo, and like one on the XBLA that have multiple gravity sources, but they usually stick to one at a time, and they use the gravity source to wrap around a weird object rather than switching all the time. And I think that by creating this system that allows Milo to be dynamically attracted to different gravity sources, we can do a lot of new things that haven't really been touched on in terms of level design.
And for the platform, just trying to make it more fun, we're going through this space which is so diverse. So we're thinking, why don't we just do a platform based on the environment? This is one of the picture like when you're actually platforming in a city, you're actually going on the roofs or inside the buildings to platform through it, instead of just blocks.
And our pipeline is that we make the levels in Unity first, we give them to the artist, and they draw over them, or sometimes we just let the artist go crazy if we've got a blank segment. So it really feels like a natural environment. So integrating motion control, which is to say connect control into the platforming segments, is going to be done in two main ways. Milo will be finding a lot of animals that aren't hostile through this, which will have certain abilities using connect. And the reason that we picked connect for this is because, just like the connect, animals are imprecise and hard to deal with sometimes, but can save your ass. So one of the basic implications we have in this is while you're platforming and you have like a bird companion, you can kind of flap your wings to get a flutter jump, and little advantages like that.
And we're also going for what we call emotional input, which translates players' physical input. Like, have you ever had the moment where you're playing the platforming, like, get over there, you're doing something like that while you're pressing the buttons. We're going to give reward to player who's trying to do this, who's mainly more engaged in the game, so they would really jump higher or a little bit further away than there should be.
Oops. All right, so we have these physics-based puzzles in the rotational segment, and essentially it's your companion Daisy going in and talking with these machines, because she sort of represents the machine element of this duality of the main characters.
Yes, and so the machines are actually, the puzzles represent the machines, and Daisy going through the puzzles actually represents they're talking to the machines, and when you finish the level, you finish the negotiation with them. And we'll have different puzzles to represent different kinds of machines, like one of them is going through the tunnels inside of them, or you have different ones you have to remove its segments.
So the way that they're controlled, and we'll just show you this in this gameplay video, but essentially you're using your arms like that and like that to rotate it around an axis, and this is all stuff that you can do while you're holding the controller and helping modulate the connect input by selecting which axis with the controller, but also you can platform while you're doing this. We think that might be really interesting. Here's a really quick video of us solving a simple puzzle with this rotation. And as you can see, once Daisy hits the red block, it'll have an immediate effect in the platforming world. And we really want to make these two. There it is. And that's the cannon that allows you to get to the next level. So these two mechanics seem very separate, and they kind of are, but we really want to make this whole game about bringing them together and finding the interplay between the two of them and what's really fun in between the two of them. And so our core philosophy is that each puzzle will affect the platforming environment and vice versa. You can only access the puzzles by solving platforming challenges.
And sometimes you have to cooperate from your platforming side and also puzzle side, which symbolize the cooperation between Milo and Daisy.
So creating paths for Milo inside them, which is normally a 3D space, making it a 2D space, and also, as I said, platforming while you're still rotating it and deforming the world in real time. So we're going to move on production and what we already have. We've been working on this class for 484 and 486, which is the intermediate design and immersive design, which is where we learned how to work with the Connect and Unity. And because the scope was too big for the 484 class when we pitched it, we really focused on making puzzle segments, prefabs, tools to use for a much bigger team, because we realized the scope of this is much bigger.
And you get a real well-funded prototype and also a lot of useful tools from the classes. And we're highlighting accepted into second round of Imagine Cup because we got 8 Unity Pro license and also Connect shipped to us. That's really encouraging to us. That's why we submitted to Indicate, just to see how everything goes.
So here's just a sample of our production plan and some concept art that come with it. That's just our task list and how we're managing our team right now. So our summer plans are to pick leaders for the team that we really trust so that we can focus on design, experiment with Connect controls and smooth them out, but most importantly have a polished level that's the first level designed and final art so that everyone on the team immediately knows our direction.
And the level design is actually written down. This is part of the first level. We have like five plans for it, and this is the first one.
So our goals for the Advanced Game Project are about 40 minutes to 1 hour levels and 4 to 6 of them. So maybe 4 hours of gameplay and at least 2 of our end conditions. But essentially our plan is to, after we get the narratively essential planets out of the way, to see what the pace of the team is and see how much we can get done. Because of our nonlinear exploration, it really doesn't matter which planets we get done, and we're just going to try and get the fun ones done
And when
first.
we have to finish game, first we're submitting to IGF in October to better understand the process of the contest. And then we're really submitting the game to next year's meeting IGF to try to win.
So finally, our biggest ambitions are the difficulties with Kinect and our just doubts about that, and really making it fun with motion controls, making sure that everyone gets the implicit narrative, having a consistent aesthetic through the 2D and 3D art, using maybe cell shading, and incorporating the cinematic moments in a way that enhance gameplay rather than detract from them or distract players from them. We hope the players will look for these moments.
Our goal for ambitions is, first we want to create a precedent in utilizing the hybrid control scheme, and also entertainment is trying to express some kind of serious topics, and that's what we also want to touch on. But first we have to make the game interesting to the players so they will think about the game. And to create a different and equally rewarding path to our world, whichever path you choose or whichever ending you choose, you would have an experience really rich enough. You won't miss anything.
So finally, we realize the scope is big, and that's what they said to us when we pushed it to 484, and that's why we've been getting ready for this. And you need your guys' help to really finish this game and make an epic experience that we can complete and have a long-form game that will be significant.
Yes.
All right.
So question, why 2D and 3D? Why not just one or the other?
Well, specifically, it's in the Kinect rotation segments, and it also goes with our theme of dualities. The motion and analog control, I mean, Jen and I came together from two very different design perspectives when we were creating this game. I said I want to make a game about asteroids and platforming, and she said she wanted to make a puzzle game, and we were just too stubborn to not do both of those. But essentially, the 3D puzzles are necessarily in 3D, but we think that if we use like a cell shading element in that, and also incorporate them into the 2D gameplay, like by creating 2D paths on a single plane of them that you can platform through, we can really merge the gap between
And we found this really interesting, try to experiment, like how to incorporate 2D and 3D to make it look better, and how to incorporate controls to make it look better. There's no game before I've ever tried that before. So, yeah.
On the control, so how are you controlling Milo when you're not using the Kinect?
It's just using the joystick.
It's left stick for moving clockwise and
The controller
counterclockwise
is.
around the planet. Well, essentially, it's actually kind of a unique question because all of our gravity sources will be circular.
Right.
So right now we have it left stick and right stick or move clockwise and counterclockwise rather than left and right. But this sometimes is unintuitive, and we were thinking about maybe moving with degrees, or if you start moving right, it'll keep your position
Right.
as you go.
So when you get a 3D rotational puzzle, what do you do with the controller?
Well, you can hold it in one hand, and we've mapped the jump to both A and left trigger. So that if you have to do a platforming thing at the same time as rotating it, you can use the left stick and left trigger to confidently platform while solving one of these puzzles.
You need to simplify this interface because people are not going to want to, like, when do I put this down?
I think you could do the whole thing with Kinect.
The whole thing is Connect. You should just do the whole thing.
But we can debate later as to why.
The kind of metaphor that I took with it that I think helps explain it is when you have like an iOS game that has really traditional controls like A, B, and like maybe a D-pad for moving around,
Yeah.
and then you tilt it to affect things in the game, and it's pretty easy. We wanted to make it more like that, so the focus is still on the platforming, but if you tilt like that, a very specific thing will happen in the world.
Okay. Other questions?
I mean, I know both you guys well. I've worked with you, and I have a lot of faith in you and your ability to work together. Though the scope does seem very large.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about 4 hours of gameplay, especially if you're looking at festivals like IGF and Indiecade. You're talking about judges looking at it for about 5 minutes, right? And so it'd be much better to have a really, really focused 30-minute experience that was just great all the way through than something of that level.
Yeah, that's sure we worked on. That's our priority first. Trying to finish the first level and make it really polished and exquisite, and then we'll move on to the next if we have time.
And a level is several planets or one?
Right, it's going to be a
Several
themed like planetoid system.
Okay.
Question. Larry gave me a set of things to think about when I was listening. And first question is team size for me.
We
You have any ideas yet?
we are currently working with a team of
Yeah, 12.
I
We
know,
already
but
have like 12 people on our team, like 2 composers and 3 artists, 4 programmers, and it's like a 12 people team already, and maybe 2 of them are here.
Wait, well, you got a level designer. But
Yeah,
we've
it's written here,
proposed
but I
this
wanted to hear from
20
you about it.
because we think that the more programmers we can use on the scripting of these moments and the more animators we can use on that, those are going to be our biggest bottlenecks in terms of asset production.
Yeah, because
So
we're
your plan full size is about 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. Because we're really good at design, we just lack programmer and artists,
Yeah.
especially artists.
Okay. Any other questions? Great.
I have a quick question. So, you said multiple levels, multiple planets is one level.
Mhm.
You get into it, you realize instead of making 4 to 6 levels, you can only make one level. Like, how are you gonna deal with that? Are you gonna try and push and make 2, or are you gonna be okay, like killing your babies and just focusing on one
Yes,
level?
Well-
we focus on to make every level very memorable and exquisite. So we just make sure each level is finished, just completely finished and really interesting before we move on to the next one.
And to answer that
Because
question,
it's non-linear, not important how many we have.
also in our 44 class, we had that same experience where they said the scope is too big, and we thought we'll do 6 planets in this first level, and we ended up just really getting down to the first planet of it. But we've, from that and from our team size and what we can do, we've gotten a really good idea of the pace we can work at making these levels.
And the engine you're using is?
All right, great. Thank you very much.